All right, part 2 of breeding decisions. This is the video where I need your input. Oh, hi, Miss Wren. Hi. Why are you climbing up on me? Are you a puppy dog that you can stand on your back legs and say hi? That's not really appropriate. Down. So let's go. Breeding decisions need to be made much sooner rather than later. Why? I want to breed. I want to expose the goats to their breeding partner sometime between September and October, and preferably September. So goat gestation is 5 months, give or take, right? You know, of course, it's not exactly 5 months, but we're going to call it 5 months for practical purposes of planning. So if it's 5 months, September, October, November, December, January, February, babies are born in February. If it's October, babies are born in March. February and March are perfect times for us to have babies here. The weather is still sometimes very cold, but cold enough to keep parasites at bay. We have our setup perfectly coordinated for that type of weather. And I find that our babies thrive much better when they're born in the cooler temperatures and not in hot temperatures. In hot temperatures, the bugs are around, you know, there's a lot more issues. You've got flies that are, you know, trying to lay eggs on all of the, you know, birth, afterbirth, and all the other fun stuff. And it's just, I have a preference for cooler weather breeding. So why not breed in December for babies in December or January? Well, I don't breed for babies in December because I absolutely don't do holiday babies in any of my species. I don't start hatching baby birds until after Easter. I don't have baby goats until after Christmas. So why not New Year's babies, right? Why February instead of January? For me, it helps a little bit with the chaos of the season, right? Prepping for births, watching for udders to form, making sure the mamas are healthy in that late-term pregnancy. That's where all the stress starts to build up, right? And you know that the holiday season is somewhat stressful anyway, so why do that to myself? It's just easier to have to kind of be back into the routine of work. Wren keeps jumping up on me today, and she keeps knocking me down, quite honestly, and she's just a little bitty goat, but she gets me from behind, and I don't know that she's there. Isn't that right, Lotus? So, you know, the having babies in January just adds to that whole chaos of getting back into the routine, of getting back to work and getting back to the schedule and getting everything normalized again from after a little bit of a holiday break. Why do that to myself? Last reason, we used to have our spring show in April. And babies born in February, March are, you know, at that age where they're okay to put in the ring. They've been vaccinated, they've been castrated if they need to be castrated. You know, they're certainly old enough to go to a show and be put into a show ring. Younger babies, I don't necessarily feel comfortable putting the younger babies into the ring and exposing them to other herds and other goats because they may not be fully vaccinated. So that is, again, just my preference. Nowadays, we don't even have shows in April anymore. They're closer to May and June. So all of that argument is sort of null and void, but it still sticks from my historical perspective. So September is my target month, and that means February babies. Why do I have my backup of October? Well, if the exposure to the buck doesn't result in a pregnancy in September, the doe should go back into heat in October, and breeding in October for March babies is still realistic and reasonable, still kind of fits all the criteria. If at that point the second exposure does not result in a pregnancy and the doe goes back into heat in November, I do not rebreed them. So they get basically 2 chances at it. Now, 9 times out of 10, the first the first breeding takes and they don't go back into heat. So all of that is, these are all just what ifs. But like Lotus last year did not take on either one of her 2 breedings. Come November, she went into heat. I would not breed her at that point. One, again, babies coming in April, start to get into that potential warm weather, buggy weather. 2 is, I'm not looking to extend my baby season for months and months and months. I don't do a snuggle operation. I don't do anything like goat yoga where I need babies around all the time. And certainly I'm not milking my goats because they're not dairy goats, number 1. And number 2, I have no time to milk. So they don't get bred after that. And that means their body gets a rest. So last year, Lotus and Denali both did not settle, if that's what it's called. When they get pregnant, they settle. And neither one settled, so neither one had babies. So this year, I have to look at the herd, look at what I see. I guess the dogs are bored with me and they're leaving. All 3 of the littles have decided to go home. At least Tonka's here with me, just to make sure you hear him bark and chat. So who am I going to breed to who? The way I make those decisions, of course, is I always look at, who's related to who, right? So none of that, there's no inbreeding or line breeding happening here. We don't breed relations. But the second thing then is, what do I need to improve on each goat? And from that improvement, have I bred that goat to that buck before? What was the outcome? What do those kids look like? Do I want to try it again? Do I want to try something different? And then there's certain breeding pairs that are more for pets than for show. And at that point, I'm looking, at personalities. And of course, I'm always looking at temperaments. You guys know my bucks. My bucks are sweet as can be. They're personable. They're social, probably too social. My does are social, as evidenced by all of them being up in my grill. So, who's in the breeding program this year? It's going to be, for sure, Wren. Wren has been bred to Phineas twice, and she produced Voodoo this year. And Voodoo, of course, stayed here. So, do I repeat that breeding because Voodoo was such a stunning, spectacular, amazing goat? Or do I try a breeding with somebody else and she's been bred to Phineas twice? Open question. Let me know in the comments what you think. Ladybug will not be in the breeding program. She's much too young. Persephone here against the wall will be in the breeding program. I am leaning toward breeding her to Thorn this year. I think that would be a phenomenal mix, but I'm also debating breeding her to Voodoo. She's not related to Voodoo at all. And it could be interesting to see what those 2 produce, because Persephone, again, is one of my top show goats. Voodoo is, at least right now, demonstrating he's going to be a top show goat. So what could come from that would be really fascinating. Voodoo cannot be bred to his mom, so that wasn't an option. Misty is maybe in the breeding program. I was a little concerned about her body condition, but she's looking much better now. So, I did this last year. I said the same thing. She took a long time to recover from having her twins, but then suddenly when it was breeding season, all of a sudden she was like in perfect body condition. She looked really good. She was ready to rock and roll. And so we did breed her and she gave me beautiful twins again. So again, she's Persephone's mom. So I'd love to breed her. She's been bred to Phineas a couple of times as well. So I'd love to breed her to Thorn, but Voodoo's also an option. Technically, Phineas is an option too. Jacey is a definitive for me. So Jacey, this is probably her last breeding year. She's been bred to Phineas a couple of times. She's also been bred to some of our bucks who are no longer here. She produces absolutely gorgeous, colorful kids. She sometimes has triplets, but most often twins. Every once in a while, she throws a single. She's on the older side from my breeding program. A lot of people breed much beyond 9 years, but she's going to be 9 years, and I think that's plenty of breeding from her. But her temperament is what keeps me with her, right? She's an amazing mother. Her kids are the most social, people-oriented kids that I get. They just make the best pets. And she is not a show quality goat by any means. She's one of my older goats. So even in her heyday, she wasn't necessarily the best show quality. She's produced some show quality kids though, so don't get me wrong. But I think pairing her with Thorn this year, with his sweet personality and his gentle, quiet nature, I think would be an amazing pairing. But let me know what you think in the comments. Then we have these three here, these three nuggets. So Lotus, who didn't settle last year. Lotus, I would love to pair with either Phineas or Thorn. She's been paired to Phineas before, but I think that Phineas is probably my target for her. Sock Monkey, who is Lotus's daughter, I'm thinking about Voodoo for her. Sock Monkey is on the smaller side, similar to Wren and Persephone, really. And so pairing them with Voodoo will help Voodoo actually get the job done, number one, because they're a little shorter. But number two, I think that, where I want to improve on Sock, now her conformation is stunning. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from the judges on her. Wren, did you faint? Oh no, you're just rolling. You're such a silly goat. So I've gotten a ton of compliments and kudos on her conformation. However, she's missing some headdress, right? She doesn't have a whole lot of bangs. She's got two little strands on the top of her head. Her neck has started to come in, but it's not thick. It's not long. It's not draped over and connected to her beard. So putting some coat on her would really be helpful. Well, not on her, of course, but on her kids. And it's interesting that she doesn't have as much coat because she comes from Lotus, who has coat for miles. So I think if I pair her to Voodoo, who should have coat for miles, we should see some amazing kids out of that. Plus, Sock should throw some colors. She just went into the breeding program last year. Her kids were beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that again. And I think a Voodoo pairing would be fabulous. And that leaves me with Denali. Denali is our big girl here. She is not over height for a mini Silky, but she sure is close. So really the improvement here, she's a master champion, and you can tell just based on her coat how much she's, how perfect she is, right? But she is on the larger side. So I really want to dial her down a bit. So pairing her with Thorn as a master champion, I think would be fabulous. However, Denali is a bit obnoxious, as you may have noticed. Ladybug, are you chewing on my pants? Yes. So she may be too much for Thorn to handle because he's such a gentle, quiet buck. And if that's the case, then we'll just pair her up with Phineas. And Phineas is smaller, even though he's bigger than Thorn and Voodoo, of course. He's not gigantic by any means, and that'll start to taper down the size of her kids. I do not want, and we've talked about this in a different video, mini minis, but we can taper her size down a little bit. So pairing her with a smaller buck is really the ideal. So guys, what I need from you as I build out my schedule and kind of make it permanent so that when these girls go into heat in a couple of weeks, I can start to breed them to the right bucks. Let me know in the comments what you want to see, what you're thinking. I would love to hear your opinions on who should be bred to who. You've had plenty of time to see and observe my bucks and my does. Love to hear it. All right. So until next time, I'll leave you with Wren being Wren. I don't know what she's doing. She's so funny. And yes, by the way, this stall needs cleaned today. So that's the next chore on the list. So don't come at me for a dirty stall. I just haven't cleaned it yet today. Thanks guys for being here. And until next time, there's work to be done. Bye for now.